Hey guys, it's Mr. Francie here, and this is my reading vlog for the 20th to the 26th of January 2020. I almost said 2019 there. You know, that's kind of a thing that I have when I get to the first month of the year. It's all about adjusting from what you're so used to referring to the year as. I mean, I think I work it out around about April, but anyway, it is 2020. So the 20th of January to the 26th of January 2020 reading vlog. Here we go. So, as you guys know from last week, I was reading Personal Demons. Now, I do apologize with the mirrored image. I always say this. I've tried to fix it. I've tried many different ways to fix it. It's not working, so it is what it is. Just forgive me with the mirror image. But you guys know I was reading Personal Demons last week, and I was considering the replacement, but did not know if I would get to it. Good news! I actually did get to it, and I'm about to explain why. Okay, so Personal Demons is a book that I am actually reading with a friend of mine. We are doing a book club together, and so this is kind of like a, well, not kind of. It is. This is a book club book for me. Now, the issue that I had, and I was discussing this with my friend earlier on in the week because I wasn't enjoying the pace that we had set for reading, because we had kind of made a bit of a rule that each week we would read 5 chapters and then we would talk about it. Now, in week 1, which was the second, whatever, last week, so not the week just gone by, but the week before that, I was happy that it was only 5 chapters because I was struggling to read. But this week I really got into a reading pattern, and I'm really happy that I did. I've not specifically set myself a time to read, but I have set myself a goal and a target to read for at least an hour a day. And if I miss the hour, an hour for a certain day, then I'll make it up the next day or over the next few days with additional time to read. So I'm trying to make sure that I read about at least 7 hours a week, if possible, and at the moment it does seem to be working out for me. But the problem with reading only 5 chapters and then having to stop each week with Personal Demons is that I read those 5 chapters within the space of that very first hour of that week. So, I mean, unfortunately, this book, I was kind of up to date with where I need to be for book club, couldn't read any further, and I just did not know what to do. And this started a whole discussion with my friend where, you know, full transparency, we nearly stopped the book club because I need to be able to read at the pace that I read at and not, you know, slow down. And so I did mention in one of my other videos, this is why I don't like book clubs, because, well, one of the reasons being, what if you don't like the book? But another reason that I should have mentioned, which definitely was the case for this week, is you're kind of limited in how much you're able to read, because, I mean, you can read ahead, but the problem with me reading ahead with a book that I'm reading for a book club where you can only read a certain amount is that I don't want to give away spoilers, and if you watched any of my review videos, you know that I definitely give away spoilers because I like to talk about what I've read and not talk about it in a way that sounds like a suggestion for you to watch it, but talk full disclosure about, you know, everything that's been going on in the book. And if I read ahead, I could mistakenly talk about things that whoever's in the book club has not read yet. So that was something that we had a very long conversation about, and the book club did nearly come to an end. Fortunately, however, I then thought about other people that I know that read more than one book, and I always wondered, how can you read more than one book at a time? And now I know why. Once I get through the 5 chapters of this book, I put this one down, and then I picked up this one. So I have started reading this one, and I am a good 100 pages in. I'm actually on page 106 of this one. So let's quickly give my overview of this one. If you would like a more detailed spoiler version of my review of chapters 6 to 10 of this book, or a spoiler review of this one, then you can check out those book reviews in those playlists. But what I'm going to do with my reading vlog is just give a bit of an overview that is as spoiler free as I can make it. And last week I was discussing how I don't like what Lisa DeRoches is doing in this book, because the setup for the book, at least by reading the blurb, is that you have these two angels that are trying to win the soul of this human. And, excuse me, and I thought that's what the book would be about. And it's not that the book is not about that, but the book has taken a very sharp turn away from the plot for me. In those first 5 chapters, I was talking about just how much of a romance book it seems to have turned into, because everyone's talking about their thoughts and their feelings for each other and electricity and da-da-da-da-da. And I did even say that if I see the word electricity one more time, I'm going to have issues. I have read the word electricity probably about 10 more times since starting chapter 6 and getting through to the end of chapter 10. And yeah, you can kind of get a sense of how I'm feeling about this one. I will read it all the way through because it is, because I am reading this book for book club, I've decided to make a rule for myself that I will not have any DNFs. If you don't know what DNF stands for, it stands for did not finish. And I wrote that in my goals. I've got my goals next to me. Which goal was it? Goal number 5, to DNF any books that I don't enjoy, and that was a big one for me. But I think I'm going to put in an additional goal for this year. Any book that I'm reading for book club, I will get all the way through, because, you know, I feel like I owe it to whoever else is in the book club to finish the book. So I will finish this one, but at the moment, it's really not an enjoyable read for me. There are moments here and there where I do appreciate little things that the author has put in, especially with one of the characters. Again, since I'm not giving away spoilers here, I won't say which one, but one of them I do have a lot of love for, and then there are others that I don't really like at all. But the book seems to be centering a lot around romance, where it's really, this should not be considered a romance book. It is a YA. If you don't know what YA is, it stands for young adult. It is a young adult fantasy book, so I don't know why we are so fixated on love as opposed to the fantasy side of things, but that's okay. That is what it is, and I will get through this book because, as I said, it's part of book club, so I will get through it. We'll see how we go. Oh yeah, that is another thing that I'll mention. I did say that I was planning on getting through in my January goal setting. I did say that I was going to get through this book by the end of January, but this is not going to happen because of the way that the book club is set up. So I have finished chapter 10 of this book, and then by the end of next week, the goal is to get to the end of chapter 15, and there are, I think, 23 chapters in this book. So because of the way that book club limits the amount of chapters I can read, and I did not foresee that this was going to happen, it shouldn't probably have been a goal of mine to have this finished by the end of January, because it's just not possible to do with the way the book club is structured. Now, I'm not upset with that. That's totally fine. It is the way it is, but I just want to put out here that this book will not be finished by the end of January. It's just not going to happen. But let's talk about The Replacement by Brenna Yovanov. Now, I was really excited to pick up this book, especially while reading Personal Demons. I was talking last week about how I really can't wait to get my teeth into this book, because this one is starting to really bore me. And I have to say, because there are no limitations on how far I can read into this book, I am up to page 106 of this one. Isn't it interesting that I'm up to page 106 of this one, and I am up to page 144 in this one. I thought it was less, but there you go. Okay, so there we go. I thought it was 106 and 108, but it's 106 and 144, but that's fine. That is what it is. I need to update where I'm at with this book on Goodreads. I have updated where I'm up to with this one on Goodreads, and yeah, I'll probably update Goodreads every couple of days or so. So if you want to follow me on Goodreads, the link is in the description below. Now let's talk about this book without giving away too many spoilers, or really any spoilers. Yeah, because I do want to keep the spoilers for the reviews that I have in the playlist of that particular book. So in the replacement playlist, you will receive a lot of spoilers from me. But I will say this, I'm not enjoying this book, and it's kind of sad. There is a positive to come out of this, and I'll tell you about that as we get to the end of the video. But I'm not enjoying either of the books that I'm reading at the moment, but the reason I'm not enjoying this one, and I don't feel this is a spoiler per se because I'm not going into details of what's actually occurring in the book, but I'm just commenting on the book as a whole, and that is because it is an incredibly slow start. As I said, I'm 100 and whatever it is, 106 pages into this book, and really, we just found out. Okay, so without giving away any spoilers at all, the main character is different. Okay, we know this because the author makes it very obvious from the get-go, and the author, again, without saying what it is, the author talks about certain things. So the book, again, is a first-person book, which, what is going on with all these first-person books? Can I just say, we break here for massive headlines. Mr. Francie keeps reading first-person books without realizing it, and I don't like first-person books. But anyway, back to the review. So we find out through the way that this character is talking about himself that he is different to others. He is I don't know if he would call himself a self-proclaimed outcast. Okay, I will say this because, again, it does not give away the book. He refers to himself as a freak, or at least he will intimate that he is a freak. Anyway, so he's very different, and I kept wondering what makes him so different. There comes a point in the book where he meets a stranger, and the stranger tells him something. And I thought, oh, this is really good because, when he goes with the stranger, okay, so again, I don't want to give away too much, but the stranger basically directs him to do something. And I thought, oh, this is great because when he does what the stranger has directed him to do, the book will really pick up. At that point, I was probably at the 50-page mark. I'm now, as I said, about 108 pages in. He still hasn't done what the stranger said he was meant to do. And so it's like, what the heck? And then I think we find out at the end of the second last chapter that I read, of where I'm up to, we find out one thing about him, that if this is the whole point of the book, I'm going to be very disappointed in this book. However, because this book is not it's not a book club book. So because it's not a book club book, DNF rules do apply here. I am going to scrap the goal where I said that with DNFing a book that I will only read a quarter of the way through, I will now make it halfway through. The reason for this is because there are apparently a ton of books out there that have really slow starts. I'm not a fan of them. I've spoken about this before, you guys, and if anyone can recommend a book for me that starts right, smack bang in the middle of the action, please recommend that book to me because I'm just really, I don't enjoy slow starts, and both of these books have incredibly slow starts. I know that there is a fellow booktuber out there. I won't shout them out at this stage, but I might do later on as we progress with this channel. But there's a booktuber out there that I follow, and she does not like jumping right into action and having to keep up with the main characters because the pace of the book is so incredibly fast. But I'm the opposite to her. I much rather jump and dive right into whatever action scene is playing out and run right alongside my characters than really walk alongside them while they take forever to lay the foundation. I'm just going to pause. I'll be right back. Just to reiterate that, I don't appreciate books that take forever to get anywhere, really. And part of me thinks maybe I should stop reading the blurb because maybe the blurb to any book is the best part of the book. Because with both of these books, I read the blurb, so I kind of know what the plot is meant to be about. But if it's going to take forever to get to the point, then I don't know, maybe I shouldn't have even read the blurb. But also, blurbs are what, and if in case you aren't aware, a blurb is what is written at the back of a book. So if you are picking up a book and you see a cover and you think, oh, this looks really interesting, I wonder if I'll like this. And if you don't read a book purely based off a cover, but you want to know a little bit about it, turn to the back of the book and read what's written there. This is called the blurb. So yeah, I always read the blurb just to see if this is something I'm going to get into, and I read the blurb of both of these books, love the idea that the authors come up with, don't like the fact that they're taking a very painstakingly long time to get there, but anyway, that's fine, that is what it is. I have to say between the two of them, look, I kind of have them on par with each other. There is a particular character in this book that if that character wasn't in that book, I would say this one is the tougher one to get through. But that particular character that I'm thinking of keeps me going with this one. I mean, as I said, I'm going to read this one all the way through anyway because of book club, but that particular character does keep me going with that book. Had that character not been there, it would be much tougher to read. With this one, it's not necessarily that I'm in love with the characters because I'm really not in love with any of the characters at the moment. One thing that I can spoil for you is the name of the main character, and I'm only saying it because I connect with the name. His name is Malcolm, but his friends call him Mackie. Now, I'm not really a fan of shortening names personally, and so I don't like that they're calling him Mackie. I would much prefer them to call him Malcolm. I love the name Malcolm. And there is a vacuum cleaner being used next door, so I'm just going to pause and I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm basically going to wrap this up, but the point that I was trying to make was that I love that his name is Malcolm because I like the name Malcolm. I think it's a nice name. I don't know why they have to call him Mackie, but anyway, that's fine. That is what it is. But I just reread the blurb, and I'm going to talk about what I reread in the blurb over in the spoiler version of my review of what I've read of this book so far. But what I will say without giving any of the blurb away is that I'm about a third of the way in, or a quarter to a third of the way into the book, and what is written in the blurb has not happened yet. So this is my point. If I read a blurb, I don't want to read I don't want to read something that's going to happen right at the end of the book. I don't want to read something that's going to happen from halfway through the book onwards. I want to be reading what's going on at the beginning. You know, if the blurb were to be the fairy tale of Goldilocks and the Three Bears, I don't want the blurb to say Goldilocks is trapped in a house and the bears come home and she needs to find a way to get out of there, and then spend 3/4 or to halfway through the book having Goldilocks do everything she's doing before the bears even get home. Like, I don't like this. And I am a massive fan, and I will always give her and her series a shout out, of J.K. Rowling and the Harry Potter series. I love this series so much. But what I love about the blurb, I don't have a hard copy. I'm just checking. Yes, actually, I do. Just a moment. Okay, so I didn't think I had a hard copy of the Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone book, but I do, and yes, Philosopher's Stone, because I'm in Australia. I know that in America, I think it was called the Sorcerer's Stone. There's a debate about that, but that's not my point. I want to read the blurb to you guys to give you an understanding of what I love with blurbs compared to what I don't love with blurbs. Okay, so this one, the blurb at the back says, Harry Potter thinks he is an ordinary boy until he is rescued by an owl, taken to Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, learns to play Quidditch, and does battle in a deadly duel. The reason Harry Potter is a wizard. Now, this is wonderful. We spend the first chapter in this book, I think it's just the first one. I'll just pause and confirm that. Okay, so we spend the first couple of pages of the first chapter in what kind of looks like a human Landia setting. I'm just going to pause. I'll be right back. Okay, I do apologise for continuing to keep pausing. I just don't like background noise, so I'm trying to keep it as far away from this video as possible. We spend a couple of pages in the first chapter in what seems like human Landia, with a character that the protagonist lives with, going down the street, and there are people talking about the Chosen One and things like this. And then from about halfway through the first chapter, boom, we are introduced to this, Harry Potter is a wizard. We're introduced to a wizard, we're introduced to a witch, and the story really starts to take off right away after the first couple of pages. This is what J.K. Rowling does incredibly well. She delivers on what she promises. She gets you into the wizarding world pretty much within 3 pages. I'm still waiting for this plot to be carried out, to be completely fair. Or not the plot to be carried out, but for them to really focus on the plot, on the blurb for this book. To be fair, there are moments here and there, little sprinklings, but that's all it is. It's just a sprinkling. There is no... it's not strongly focused on what is promised in the blurb at all. If anything, I'm going to call this book a romance novel and not a young adult fantasy book. So that's my disappointment with that one. With this one, as I said, I read the blurb, and honestly, we haven't even discussed anything to do with the blurb at all, and I'm already I'm already a quarter to a third of the way through the book. So to me, that is disappointing, but that is what it is. Now, let's quickly jump back to, how I'm doing and progressing through this month. So I started off 2 weeks ago just with reading this book. I've read 5 more chapters of this book. I started off the beginning of the week having not read this book, and I'm now 108 pages into this book. So I'm really, really happy with my efforts there. Now, as I mentioned at the towards the beginning of this video, there is a positive to the fact that I'm not liking either of these books. I'll give this one to halfway, and I will finish this because it's part of the book club, as I've said. The positive about the fact that I don't like either of these books is that it has assisted me greatly in already determining the books that I'm going to read in February. Now, I will discuss that with you with my goal setting video for February, but I'm really excited about this. I don't want to give away too much, but yeah, I think I've made a really good decision, and obviously time will tell after the first week of February and I do my first week of February overview of what I've read, but I'm really excited about the books that I've planned to read in February, so we're going to see how we go with that. But yeah, I need to thank both Lisa de Roches and Brenda Yovanov for assisting me to come up with at least 2 books that I'm pretty sure I'm going to absolutely love after reading, say, a third of both of these books and kind of not really liking either of them. But that's okay, it is what it is. Alright, so I will leave the overview there. If you have any comments, thoughts, and or questions that you would like to discuss with me about anything at all that came up in this video, please do let me know in the space below. But otherwise, I'm going to let you guys go. Peace, blessings, and so much love. Mwah! Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye!